Well, ladies and gentlemen, now that we are getting into the summer months here in the super critical 2024 election, the build-up, the debate between Biden and Trump, 12 days away, or excuse me, 14 days away. I read that as it was June 15th. It's actually June 13th. So 14 days away from the debate. We're getting these different models trickling in, and I think this is a really good one in terms of a state by state prediction where they give like a percent chance in terms of all the states separately. That's what I'm going to be going through today. You can see right now it gives Donald Trump about a 66% chance to win. According to this model, I know 538 came out with their model. It makes no sense. It's whatever. Basically, if you look at 538 in the betting, they think Biden somehow is going to sweep the Rust Belt and barely win Pennsylvania, barely win Wisconsin, barely win Michigan. That's really his only path. And that's why some of these models are coming out and saying Biden's got like a 51% chance. The betting has Biden at like a 53% chance. 538 has Biden at a 52% chance. The issue is you have to take everything into account. Biden's approval rating, the thoughts on the economy, the thoughts on immigration, everything like that. And even just Biden's approval rating would suggest it's going to be very hard for him to win. Also, the polls, even if you want to argue, there's potential swing states like Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. The aggregate and the overall numbers are telling us, based on 2020 and 2016, that we would expect Trump to win because the polls underestimate him. You could argue maybe they're overcorrecting. We will see, but either way, I would say this is probably a pretty accurate prediction of where we are right now. Trump with a 66% chance, Biden with about a 33% chance. And you can see this is just the overall popular vote. Republicans winning the popular vote. Go back to 2016 at this time. I think Trump was probably down by 10 points to Hillary in terms of just the overall head-to-head popular vote. 2020, Trump never led the overall popular vote average in terms of the polls. He would have been like down 6 or 7 points at this point in June of 2020 when the pandemic was happening. And so you can see they give predictions: Michigan +1 to Republicans, Wisconsin +2, Pennsylvania +2, Nevada +3, Arizona +4, Georgia +4. I think those are very accurate predictions. Which states are critical? I think this is kind of useless. I mean, we know the most critical states. Michigan. Wow, they say Michigan is more critical than Pennsylvania. Yeah, I think for Trump, Pennsylvania is probably the most critical. Now, let's go to really what the video is about. It's a state-by-state prediction. I'm going to go through every single state, all the districts, and take a look at what they're saying in terms of the overall percent chance. You can see, you take a look at a state like Washington. I guess we'll start on the west and head east here. Washington, 98% chance Biden's going to win. I think it's basically 100% chance. I haven't even seen a poll that's come out of Washington, but it's just a liberal state. There's no doubt about it. Oregon, 97% chance. I guess the biggest drama in Oregon is if some of the state goes to Idaho. I know some of that state, at least the eastern side of it, they want to leave Oregon and be part of greater Idaho. And maybe Idaho gains another electoral vote and takes one away from Oregon, and Oregon loses a bunch of land to Idaho. I don't think it's going to happen, but it's kind of interesting. Go look that up. California, basically 100% chance that Biden is going to win. Alaska, Trump's going to win Alaska. Alaska got closer in 2020, and it took them like 3 hours to call it. Obviously, the polls there, if you're on the East Coast, they don't close till like 1 o'clock because it's a 4-hour time difference. Hawaii, Biden, basically 100% chance to win that. Let's move on to Idaho. Obviously, 99 to 100% chance Trump's going to win. Montana, 100% chance Trump's going to win. Wyoming, 100% chance Trump's going to win. Nevada, the first swing state, they give Trump a 64% chance to win. I think that's pretty fair. Now, the polling would suggest Trump actually should have more than a 64% chance, but I think right now, based on where we are, and also the fact that the Democrats have performed very well in Nevada in the past, you could say 64% chances is relatively accurate. We will see. Utah, obviously, Trump's going to win that one. Colorado, 88% chance for Biden. I think it's probably about 97, 98% chance. Maybe there'll be polls that come out. I mean, we're seeing potential competitive state races in like New Jersey, so maybe that says something about Colorado. I'd be surprised if Colorado was even close to being in play. New Mexico. So New Mexico is like the next rung up for Trump. We've been talking about Minnesota. We've been talking about Virginia. If those states actually become swing states or even turn to Trump, New Mexico would be the next state that could potentially turn to Trump. 77% chance Biden wins it. I mean, in 2020, it was 100% chance. I think it's probably like 85 to 90% chance realistically that Biden wins that state. You do have Texas. Texas is a 100% chance Trump's going to win. It's just, the model and the algorithm. Oklahoma, 100% chance 100% chance Trump's going to win. Kansas, 100% chance for Trump. Nebraska, the statewide. This is why Republicans were arguing trying to get Nebraska to be a winner-take-all. And I'm all for Nebraska being a winner-take-all. I'm all for Maine being a winner-take-all. And that's really what needs to happen. All the states need to have the same electoral process, but it does look like they're splitting it up still in 2024, and Trump will take the state for sure and get those two votes. The second district is the one where Biden won it in 2020. Trump won it in 2016. They give Biden a 73% chance. I don't really agree with that, but I have heard people say Biden actually probably will win that district. And so there was a recent poll that I think got disregarded where Trump was up 3, but you could see the other two, Trump with a 100% chance there. South Dakota, Trump's going to win. North Dakota, Trump's going to win as well. Moving on to Minnesota. Wow. So Biden right now sitting at a 66% chance to win Minnesota. It's hard to disagree with that. I mean, we've seen 3 or 4 polls here within the past month. Biden's up by about 2 points in the head-to-head against Trump. So while Minnesota, back in 2016, Trump almost won it. He got crushed in 2020, or at least lost it by 10 points. Now it's possibly back in play. We will have to see on that, but that's good news for Trump. Iowa, an interesting state in terms of it being a potential swing state in 2016. Trump won it fairly easily. It was not a swing state in 2020. It's not a swing state in 2024. Trump's going to win it. Moving on to Missouri, obviously getting into these states, Trump's going to win them for sure. Arkansas, 100% chance. Louisiana, Trump, 100% chance. Mississippi, 100% chance. Alabama, 100% chance. Florida is up to a 94% chance. And this is why the math is so different for Republicans. In 2016 and 2020, previewing the election, you're looking at the Republicans coming in at a disadvantage in terms of overall electoral votes because California and New York are Democrat locks. Illinois is a Democrat lock. But now that Florida is basically a Republican lock, we're seeing a lot more of an even playing field, something that we did not see in 2016 or 2020. Trump had to win literally every state in 2016 to win that election. And then in 2020, he wasn't able to do so. But now with Florida, because remember, back in 2020, Democrats thought they were going to win Florida. There were Quinnipiac polls coming out a month before the election that had Biden up by 10. Yeah, this is a crazy shift we're seeing. And we know Florida with the DeSantis, and what did he win by 20 points there in the 2022 midterms. Georgia, they've got Trump at a 75% chance. That's very good news for him. Trump lost Georgia by 0.2%. I just saw it a few days ago when I was looking at the polling and the history. Trump won it in 2016 by 5. I think he's probably going to win it in 2024 by about 4 points. 75% chance there. South Carolina is a Republican state, obviously. North Carolina, they've got it at an 80% chance for Trump. I think that's very fair with Trump winning it in 2016 and 2020. That he would win it in 2024, especially with the recent polling that's come out of North Carolina, with every single poll showing a Trump lead of at least 4 or 5 points. Tennessee, Trump's going to win. Kentucky, Trump's going to win. Virginia, so they give Biden a 69% chance to win the state of Virginia. Very similar to Minnesota. That's the next rung for Trump, trying to make those states swing states. And I know several different experts have declared Virginia as a pure toss-up. So that's good news for Trump that it's only a 69% chance. West Virginia, 99% chance. Ohio, very similar to Florida. It was a swing state in 2016. 2020, it was kind of a swing state, but I think people expected Trump to win it because he won Ohio in 2016 by 8 points, and he won it by 8 points again. And now it's not a swing state, it's a Republican state. So Trump very likely going to win Ohio. Pennsylvania, they give Trump a 66% chance there. It's basically a toss-up, but I understand why they would lean to Trump based off the underlying metrics with Biden's horrible approval rating, along with the fact that even though the polls are within the margin of error, Trump is leading most of the head-to-head polls against Biden in Pennsylvania, and then you add on the polling error that underestimates Trump, or at least did underestimate Trump in 2016 and 2020. You can understand why they would lean Pennsylvania to Trump based on those underlying metrics. You do have Michigan, which is maybe the most pure swing state right now. It gives Trump a 58% chance to win Michigan. I do think Michigan is probably the most liberal out of Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan. So right now, I'd say it's a pure toss-up. There's no doubt about it. Wisconsin is another pure toss-up. Trump with a 62% chance as well. Trump can lose Wisconsin and Michigan if he wins Pennsylvania. He could lose Michigan and Pennsylvania if he wins Wisconsin. As long as he wins Nevada and Arizona, I don't even think I looked at Arizona. Trump with a 69% chance to win Arizona. Or did I already look at it? I think that's probably a fair number for Trump based off of history. I've always thought of Arizona as a Republican state. Biden did win it in 2020. That was the whole Fox News debacle. They called Arizona for Biden, and they took it back, and then Biden ended up winning the state. So how some of these states count their ballots is really, really bad. Like, I know people say, well, it's mail-in ballots, but why are ballots just randomly trickling in 3 or 4 days after the election? I'm not saying, oh, it's voter fraud, but it's just a horrible system. Do it like Florida. Count the mail-in ballots first, and then you'll be done with your full count by like midnight. These states, they get like ballots like randomly show up at their doorstep, and then they get like 300 ballots 2 days after the election. I'm not saying it's voter fraud. Why is that system like that? It's horrible. You do have New York. Yeah, they give Biden like 100% chance to win New York. There were a few polls that had Trump down by only 9. I think it'd be hilarious if Trump lost by 10 or like 9 points, because that's very close for New York, and that shows like a clear shift in New York. We know some of the districts in New York have shifted to the right. It's crazy. District of Columbia, yeah, Biden's going to win. Biden may win that by 80 points. You do have Maryland going to Biden for sure. Delaware, only a 93% chance. Biden's going to win Delaware. New Jersey, they give Biden a 91% chance. I would agree. You know, it's probably not going to happen for Trump. Connecticut, 98% chance. Rhode Island, 98% chance. Massachusetts, basically 100% chance. Vermont, 100% chance. New Hampshire, people are talking about New Hampshire possibly being a swing state. Nobody really mentions it because it's only 4 electoral votes, but it's there as well. You do also have Maine and how it's split up. The statewide Maine, Biden with a 73% chance, but I've seen some polls, or it was one poll that had Trump up in Maine, the statewide, which is 2 votes. And then the districts should be split, one with Trump, one with Biden. The second district, Trump very likely to win. The first district, Biden basically guaranteed to win. And I do think I've gone through basically every state. Oh, I guess Illinois and Indiana I missed. Illinois, only a 91% chance to win. I definitely think Biden's going to win Illinois. And then obviously Trump. Normally Indiana is the first state that gets called on election night because it's always, I guess Obama did win it that one time, but it's normally always a heavy Republican state. And the polls close very early at 7 o'clock there. So that's where it's looking right now. And they've come out and they've said, you look at the 270, they've got Trump, even without the swing states. They have 3 swing states right now, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Nevada. Even without those states, because they have Trump taking Pennsylvania, he gets over the 270 mark according to this model. And you can see the change from 2020. It would be Trump taking Pennsylvania, which I'm not extremely confident about right now. I do think Trump flips Georgia back, yes. I do probably think Trump flips Arizona as well. Those would be the main changes, and then Biden gets really nothing, which would obviously hurt him. And you can see, I think this is a very fair model. 68% chance Trump wins, 32% chance Biden wins. It's kind of going, it's trending in the right direction for Trump. But yeah, this is pretty accurate. I mean, Trump has always been up over Biden. I don't know where these other models are getting the idea that Biden is winning based on all the metrics. I think this is a fair assessment. It's not like Trump's guaranteed to win. It's right now where we're at with all the polls. It's at about a 68% chance. And then I also wanted to go to this tweet. It's now come out, and this is just crazy. Breaking news. Alvin Bragg and the Biden campaign allegedly colluded in illegal election interference against Trump, according to a new FEC complaint. And so this is what I projected, and I said last week, this reeks of interference. It was already reported that Biden went to his attorney general and said, we need to expedite these charges. Think about it. Trump has 4 cases. 3 of them, the Democrats know are going to be in legal mud until after the election, where Trump hopes he can just pardon himself if he wins on those 3 cases. None of those cases are going to be solved. They're all going to be delayed until after the election one way or another. And so Biden and his administration put pressure not only on the attorney general, also Bragg, to really ram the charges. And remember, it was already reported that the prosecutors told Bragg, look, there's nothing here. We really can't get him. And then Bragg said, listen, this is my campaign promise. This is how ridiculous it is. Bragg campaigns to go and get Trump. And then you want to talk about circumstantial evidence. We get this ridiculous trial where they elevate the charges and they, charge him 34 times for the same crime. And they're all misdemeanors. They get elevated to get the felony. We've got the evidence. Bragg said he was going to get Trump, and then he elevated the charges to get Trump, and his prosecutors told him that there's nothing here. It's ridiculous. Biden puts pressure. This is totally illegal. This is 100 times worse than anything Trump did with Ukraine in 2019 when he got impeached. I remember back in 2017, I bet someone a liberal $100 when I was still working a normie job. I bet someone, I said, look, Trump is not going to be impeached. It's ridiculous. And I lost that bet because of that phony impeachment in 2019. And I don't know if you guys know this or not. There's only been 4 impeachments in U.S. president history, and Trump somehow has 2 of them. That's not an accurate telling of the Trump administration with no wars, with an amazing economy. And I think people are starting to understand without the pandemic, there was actually a poll done. They polled people right after January 6th, and that was when the media was running with that. Everyone was blaming Trump. It's all come out now. The Oath Keepers say we have to go into the Capitol. Trump's not doing it. They actually hated Trump's speech because Trump said be peaceful, and they said in text messages, Trump is just, it's not there. We have to take matters into our own hands. Trump's been vindicated of the January 6th thing. Now people are realizing it. And there was a poll right after January 6th. Trump had an approval rating, or the question was, do you approve of the Trump presidency? And it came out, it was like 39% approved of it, or they liked it. And now the updated poll where they ask people, did you like the Trump presidency? It's up to like 49% chance they liked it. So Trump's numbers are increasing the more and more this stuff comes out. And I mean, we've got Edward Snowden admitting that they're lying about all the numbers in terms of the economy. Biden's trying to, tout the unemployment rate, when in reality, the real jobs are actually going down. The full-time legit jobs that are good for middle-class people, they're going down. It's all the part-time jobs that are going up because people have to get multiple jobs because of how bad inflation is. And then they say, oh, the jobs are going up. Look at the great economy. It's not a good reflection when people have to get multiple part-time jobs and then you claim like you're creating more jobs because of how bad inflation is. So they lie about the jobs and misrepresent it. And then also with the economy, I've said if you adjust the economy for inflation, it's performing worse than it did under Trump. Obviously, it's a little bit different because the economy tanked during the pandemic. It would tank under any president. And Democrats have come out and said, we would have enacted a very similar zero COVID policy that China did. And look at what happened to China. They had deflation, which is even worse. And their economy can't even recover. They locked everyone inside for like 3 years. And it's really bad. And I think Trump handled the pandemic about as good as you could have. He said, look, we're going to close things down for a month. And we're going to see how bad it is. Remember, go back to, what was that one site where you looked at all the COVID numbers? I remember looking at those numbers in March of 2020 and being like, wow, this is not a bad pandemic. Turns out China was misreporting or not reporting all of their deaths, and they just stopped doing it. Do you guys remember that? China stopped reporting any of their deaths, and obviously there were a lot of deaths. When it comes to the pandemic, I think my biggest issue was the fear-mongering from people that didn't add full context to things. If you look, they had death counts on CNN. I don't know if they were on Fox News, but they were on all the big news channels because they wanted views and they wanted to drum it up as bad as possible. The main issue with showing death counts in relation to COVID is if you add context to it where they're like, oh my God, 700 people died today, they don't add the actual real numbers to where, Yeah, it turns out 689 of them were over the age of 75 and they all had pre-existing conditions. They just say, no, 700 people died, it's horrible. But yes, if they're all above the age 75 and they have pre-existing conditions, I'm not saying old people, should die. I think that's terrible. But if you're not going to add the full context to it, to where most of them, if not all, are very old and they already are in hospice care anyways, they fear-mongered it. And so that's what's really happening here. And they tried to make it as bad as possible. And then they said Trump is killing everyone. And then after Trump got out of office, they said DeSantis was killing everyone. And then DeSantis squared off with Newsom. DeSantis had record high approval ratings because of that. Newsom got recalled. So DeSantis destroyed Newsom. And that's why I was like, what are we doing when DeSantis and Newsom had their debate and conservatives were like, oh, Newsom is so good. It's like, DeSantis already crushed Newsom in terms of leadership during the pandemic. People don't remember. Every liberal came out and said DeSantis is a murderer and he's killing people and it's just so bad. And you want to know another thing? It's like they clutch their pearls and they say, Trump is so bad, it's an existential threat. Think about this. There was a time where DeSantis was the hot governor. And if they were doing polling, DeSantis versus Biden, he was up by 10 points. They would do polling, Trump versus Biden. Trump would only be up by 1 point. DeSantis was loved by everyone. And then they started the narrative that, oh my God, DeSantis is worse than Trump. That's what they started to say because apparently DeSantis was smarter and he's worse. So that just goes to show you, this is all boy who cried wolf syndrome when it comes to them calling Trump an existential threat. At this point in 2024, they're so deranged, whether it's Trump, DeSantis, it could be Ben Carson. They will sit there and say, it's the worst thing in the world. He's an existential threat. And I don't know why anyone buys that when you look at 2016 to 2020, how peaceful the world was. And now we've got all these wars under Biden. It's terrible. And they still try and say Trump's going to start World War III. We've already got a situation happening right now where the Biden administration has pushed Russia closer to China because they have an anti-Russia campaign and they hate Russia. And now they think conservatives love Russia. No, it's just a respect thing with Russia because they did not have their country overrun with illegal immigrants. So conservatives respect Russia for that. And you can understand, the thing with NATO. And imagine if Ukraine joined NATO. There are a lot of liberals that want Ukraine to join NATO. You want to talk about World War III. If you have this reckless opinion of Ukraine where it's like no matter what, the reckless opinion of Russia where it's like no matter what, we hate Russia. That's a very dangerous thing. Trump gets into office. He's going to alleviate the tension. He's going to try and get peace between Ukraine and Russia and possibly give Russia those two eastern districts in Ukraine because they're already Russian speaking and a lot of the Russians there want to join Russia anyways. Russia's already lost so many men. They've wasted so much money on this war. If you really think they're going to take those two districts and then launch another attack, I think that's totally ridiculous. They can't even take Ukraine. How are they going to take all of Europe? It's just fear-mongering. That's what people say. And that's just really what's happening. So you've got this stuff that's coming out with Bragg. And listen, this is 100 times worse than what Trump did with Ukraine in 2019. This is just collusion within the United States. And it's a force and it's interference. And we know why the interference is happening. They're going to sentence Trump in July. They're going to probably try and get him on house arrest because Biden cannot campaign. Biden had the excuse in 2020 to where, it's the pandemic, I can't go out. And they had those rallies where it was like they had 10 people there in cars and then they had people in little bubbles and stuff. And that was a great excuse for Biden to not have to campaign. Trump tries to campaign in 2020. And now in 2024, the guardrails are off. Trump is going everywhere. He's getting massive rallies in extremely liberal states like New York. So they're forced to do this, and this was always the case that they had to get Trump on because the other three cases are not going to be solved before the election. So this was the case. They had to jam this case with everything they could hit Trump with, and they got the felony conviction because there was collusion between Bragg, the Attorney General, and the Biden administration, and that's all come out now. And it's also come out that Biden and his administration are lying about how the economy is doing. and the overall wages as well. The wages actually haven't gone up, but the inflation's gone up. It's a horrible combination. And even if liberals want to lie to themselves and say, you know, look at this, the stock market is great, the GDP is going up. The proof is in the pudding. Young people cannot afford houses. They can't afford, you know, even a mid-size house for like a family of 3 or 4. And there's something seriously wrong. That's not what happened in 2018, 2019. Now, how much you want to attribute that to COVID? Remember, they're the ones that wanted to lock everyone in their house for 2 or 3 years and just, you know, they said, oh, if you open the economy, you're killing people. And that all contributes to inflation. If we would have locked down for a longer period of time, it would have been catastrophic. And that's what they wanted. Remember, in 2020, Trump only locked down the economy for a month and then reopened it. And he got so much hate for that. So this is all stuff that's happening, and this is why you're seeing how Trump is up by up to 68%, Biden's at 32%, with Trump up in many of these swing states. That's not to say Trump's going to win guaranteed. It's early still, and we'll see how the debates go. I think the debates in general are not going to change anyone's mind. Biden, you know what they're going to talk about? I heard it was some liberal talking about this. This is what's going to happen. Biden will ask Trump, or the moderator will ask Trump, you know, was the 2020 election legitimate? They're going to get all into that. That'll be a 10 to 15 minute segment in and of itself. Trump's felony charge is going to be a 15-minute segment, maybe even longer. Biden's going to bring it up. And then also Biden, and they're going to talk about January 6th and how that lumps into, you know, the election, possibly Trump thinking it being stolen. That's going to be another 20 minutes. So we're not going to get actual tangible debate between Trump and Biden. It's just going to be a bunch of rehashing of stuff that happened. And you know what I know they're not going to ask during the debate? How about the collusion between Bragg, who campaigned on the idea that he was going to get Trump, elevating charges, and it's already come out that Biden pressured Garland and Bragg to make sure they got Trump on this charge, and I'm sure they're not going to ask any questions about this when it comes. They're just going to say, oh, you're a felon. But people see through this crap. They look at this. I mean, this gets, you know, 572K views. So this is what's going on, and I would say right now Trump's probably got about a 68, maybe 69% chance to win. But guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.